You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, except no imitation. I've got to start with Jazz Lakers. A big fourth quarter comeback from the Lakers, led by LeBron James. He scored 15 points in the fourth quarter, 33 points overall. The Lakers were down by 8 entering the fourth quarter. They outscored the Jazz 35-22 in the fourth. They ended up winning 106-101. Good win for the Lakers. It's impressive that they were able to come back against a good Jazz team. A Jazz team that's very strong defensively. With Aaron Donald in attendance, it was nice to see another LA team pull out the win. LeBron will always have his haters, even though he doesn't really deserve it. I mean, say what you want about him off the court, but on the court, he is one of the best players in the NBA. He's on the NBA Mount Rushmore. He's a fantastic talent. Russell Westbrook had a good game. He had 17 points. Shot 6 for 13 from the field. Malik Monk was really good. Had 13 points. Good win for the Lakers. The big story, though, is Anthony Davis. He suffered another injury last night. He has a right ankle sprain, and he will miss at least 2 weeks. Just when the Lakers start to, I don't want to say get something going, because, let's be fair, they had been really bad before this win. They're 3-7 in their last 10. They were on a 3-game losing streak before that win. I don't want to say they were riding the ship or anything, but still, a big fourth quarter comeback against a really good Jazz team. Maybe, just maybe, that galvanizes the team. I mean, look, I'm not a fan of the Lakers this year. I don't like watching them play. I don't like their offensive style. I'm not a Russell Westbrook fan. I think their defense is really bad. I don't like watching the Lakers play, and I think they're vulnerable in the play-in tournament. But this was a good win, and stranger things have happened. You know, maybe you ride this win into the All-Star break, you have some renewed optimism, and you're feeling kinda good entering the second half of the season. Now, with AD out 2 weeks, it's tough. It's tough to envision how the Lakers don't fall off. I mean, when he was out early in the season, the Lakers struggled. Russell Westbrook took on too much. DeAndre Jordan failed miserably. Dwight Howard wasn't exactly a world beater. They had LeBron play small ball 5, which worked. I mean, it was fun to see. It was exciting. It actually gave the Lakers a little bit of energy. But do you really view this as sustainable for the Lakers? Being without AD for 2 more weeks? Look, the All-Star break will help. You're not missing him for as many games as you would normally. Okay, fair enough. But we've seen what happens when Russell Westbrook is the second best player on the Lakers. It doesn't work. He takes on too much, makes really bad decisions. He's not a good player. You can't win with him. We all know this. I mean, I really think the Lakers are gonna revert back to what they were previously, just a dysfunctional team. I mean, they were still dysfunctional even when AD came back, but again, that was a big win against the Jazz. Like, that kind of a win, an 8-point fourth quarter comeback. Granted, it's not like what the Nets did last night. Greatest comeback in franchise history. But it's a good win. It can make you feel really good about the team going forward. But now it's just, what did we expect? Of course AD's gonna get hurt again. He got hurt last year against the Suns in the playoffs. How'd that turn out? Can we really expect LeBron James to do everything by himself? Russell Westbrook is not working out. So it's the LeBron James show. I understand that Westbrook played well against the Jazz. 17 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Shot 6 for 13 from the field. Good game. Not a great game, but a good game. It's just hard to feel optimistic about the Lakers going forward. What could have been a really good win for them, have you feeling good about them going into the All-Star break. Now it's just, of course. What did we expect would happen? I really see the Lakers as being vulnerable in the play-in tournament. Season ends today, they're going up against the Trailblazers. I'm not betting against Damian Lillard in the playoffs. I understand that he's hurt right now, but he should be back before the end of the regular season. They've actually held steady since the trade deadline. They've won 4 straight. They're playing really good basketball right now. It wouldn't stun me if the Blazers upset the Lakers in the play-in tournament. I've seen Lillard go off in the playoffs before. Like, I could really see him having an epic game, and guys like Anthony Simons and Nasir Little and Eric Bledsoe really step up and win that game for the Blazers. I really think that could happen. Not saying it will happen, but there is a distinct possibility that if the Lakers play the Trailblazers in that play-in game, or the Pelicans, or the Spurs, whoever, that they lose that game. The Lakers are not that good this year. Flat out, they're just not. We know this. What could have been a really big win for them. A season-altering win, a win that had them feeling good about themselves, entering the All-Star break. Now it's just, of course AD's gonna get hurt again. back to having Russell Westbrook as the second best player. Because that worked so well last time, right? You can't be optimistic about the Lakers right now. You just can't. And it's a shame because that was a big win last night. Very disappointing. Moving on now to Nuggets Warriors. Another big comeback win in the Western Conference. The Nuggets were down 8 entering the fourth quarter, just like the Lakers were. But they managed to come back and win 117 to 116. In fact, to make matters more impressive, they were down 7 with 90 seconds left. But they still managed to come out on top. The Warriors' defense just imploded late in the game. And Steve Kerr is getting a ton of heat for that defensive breakdown. Yeah, it's fair. Think about the 9 guys that played for the Warriors last night. Kevon Looney, Gary Payton, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole, Otto Porter, Jonathan Kuminga, and Nemanja Bjelica. So no Draymond Green, no Andre Iguodala, and no James Wiseman. Who's the best defender out of those 9 guys that played yesterday? Gary Payton. He got it from his father. He's 6'3", 195 pounds, but can guard multiple positions. Incredibly quick hands, great basketball IQ. He is the best defensive player that the Warriors have right now. So as you see the Nuggets coming back and eventually take the lead, how do you leave him on the bench? Steph Curry hits the big mid-range jumper and one to put the Warriors up 116-114 with just under 6 seconds left in the game. So the Nuggets call a timeout, they advance the ball. Gary Payton needs to be in there. You want to go offense for defense at certain points? Fine, take Payton out. I get that. But you need Payton out there in that spot under 6 seconds left. I mean, what's the one thing you can't do in that spot? You're up 2 with under 6 seconds left. You cannot give up a wide open 3. If they're going to shoot a 3, okay. But make it contested. If you want to force them inside, okay. Worst comes to worst, that ties the game. To allow Monte Morris to get that wide open is just inexcusable. Now, Steph Curry did a solid job of closing out, but Curry just abandoned Morris, let him get open at the elbow. Otto Porter, same thing. I mean, you've got to switch everything in that spot. Instead, you let Morris get open? That's absolutely inexcusable. Monte Morris is shooting 37.5% from beyond the arc this year. You cannot leave him open. You want to tell me you're more concerned about Jokic? I'd rather Jokic get up a shot than a guy like Morris. Again, a 2 ties the game, a 3 wins it. If the Nuggets are going to score on the last possession, no guarantee, because Kevon Looney was actually doing a good job on Jokic on that possession. But even if he scores, it ties the game. You still have overtime. You're so concerned about Jokic, you forget about the wide open shooter. You know who wouldn't have done that? Gary Payton. He would have realized what was happening. He would have closed out a lot faster on Morris. I understand that Curry did a solid job of contesting it as best he could, but it was too little too late. I'm not knocking Curry for the closeout. I mean, Morris never should have gotten that open. It's just that simple. But when Morris caught the ball, Curry did a solid job of closing out as best he could. At the end of the day, though, Gary Payton needs to be out there. In that spot, when you need a stop, or even before that, when you see the Nuggets coming back, you need your best defensive player out there. Honestly, in crunch time, when the Warriors need a stop, I don't mind having Payton out there at the expense of Steph Curry. I'm not saying Curry's a bad defender. He's not. Not a great defender, but not a bad one. But who's the better defender, Gary Payton or Steph Curry? The answer is Gary Payton. So if you need a stop, wouldn't you rather have a 5-man unit of Payton, Clay, Iggy, Draymond, and Wiseman than forcing Steph Curry to stay out there? Again, I understand the optics of not having Steph Curry out there at crunch time, but if you need a stop, get your best defensive players out there. Gary Payton is better than Steph Curry. The 5 guys that I just mentioned, Payton, Clay, Iggy, Draymond, and Wiseman, are the 5 best defensive players that the Warriors have. So if Payton's good enough to be out there even when everyone's healthy, when 3 of those 5 guys are out, Payton definitely needs to be out there. Instead, he's on the bench. He's watching the whole thing unfold. That's a terrible job by Steve Kerr. The Warriors now limp into the All-Star break. They're 1-4 in their last 5. They have no chance of catching the Suns to get the top seed in the West. They're 6.5 games behind the Suns right now. They're only a game and a half up on the Grizzlies to avoid falling to the 3 seed. Steve Kerr needs to do a better job of managing clutch situations. Season ends today. The Warriors are going up against the Timberwolves. Would it really stun you if Karl Anthony Towns had a big moment to win a game for the Timberwolves? Or Anthony Edwards or D'Angelo Russell? If you're letting Monte Morris beat you, what are you going to do against those 3 better players? The Warriors need to get this sorted out sooner rather than later. Because I'll tell you, it wouldn't stun me if the Warriors lost a playoff game or even a series because of an asinine coaching decision by Steve Kerr. I like Kerr, great coach, but he's got to do a better job in these late game situations. It's just that simple. Moving on now to the Pacers buying out Tristan Thompson and him signing with the Chicago Bulls. And look, the decision for the Pacers to buy out Thompson makes sense. They're not going anywhere this year, so let the veteran chase another title. I don't mind that at all. I mean, Rick Carlisle spoke highly of what Thompson did with the Pacers, but it makes no sense to keep him around. As for him signing with the Bulls, it makes a ton of sense. Their backup center this year has been Tony Bradley. All due respect to Bradley, not a bad player by any stretch, but do you really want him being the backup center if you're gonna make an NBA title run? Probably not. Tristan Thompson is better than Tony Bradley. They're similar players, and it wouldn't stun me if down the line we said that Bradley is better than Thompson. I like Bradley, but I also like Thompson. And look, if you're making an NBA title run, this is what you do. You bring in established veterans at the expense of the young guns that helped get you to where you are in the regular season. I mean, Thompson has playoff experience, won an NBA title in 2016. Always thought he got a little bit of a bad rap with the Cavs. People really expected him to be great, especially since he was taken 4th overall. Instead, he just turned into a good or really good player. That doesn't make him a bad player. You're allowed to be disappointed that you didn't get an all-star with the 4th overall pick, but he's still a good player. Had a really good run in Cleveland. Is still a very serviceable player. He makes a ton of sense for the Bulls. He's going to get regular minutes there. Outstanding job by Chicago. It makes a ton of sense to bring him in. Alright, now I'll give you some college basketball Valk talk. And I'll start with a game that I nailed. I came close to getting it wrong. Alright, this was touch and go for a little bit, but I did say that Texas Tech would win by double digits. And I was right. Now, granted, I also said it would be a rout. It wasn't. Baylor was up by 7 at the half, but then in the second half, the Bears just fell apart. Texas Tech won the second half 51-34. To start the second half, the Red Raiders went on a 14-3 run. After that, they never trailed again. I mean, this is when Baylor really missed Chama Chichua. Now, LJ Cryer did play, which surprised me. Because I thought he was out, and Kevin McCullough I thought would play. He was out. That would have changed my pick. Alright, maybe I still would have picked Texas Tech, but I wouldn't have said by double digits, I wouldn't have said a rout. The thing is, though, Cryer not being at 100%, only playing 15 minutes, and Chama Chichua not playing at all, obviously, that's what doomed Baylor here. I mean, give James Akinjo, Adam Flagler, and Matthew Mayer credit. They did keep the Bears in this game. And look, through 20 minutes, it looked like Baylor would win. But then Kevin Obanor came alive. Bryson Williams came alive. Terrence Shannon stepped up. Adonis Arms came out of nowhere and stepped up. Really, really good win for the Red Raiders. At the end of the day, I did get my pick right. I just didn't get there in the best way possible. But if you pick Texas Tech or you put money on the Red Raiders because of me, you still won. So I'll take it. Oh, and you remember when I said that I didn't know how far Waco was from Lubbock? I did look it up. It's a 5.5 hour drive. So yeah, if I went to Baylor, I wouldn't do that drive. If it was like a huge game, maybe, but not a game in the middle of February. That's not when you do it. Moving on now to the big upset in college basketball yesterday. Rutgers knocking off Illinois. And this is actually the Scarlet Knights' fourth straight win against a ranked team. Their last 4 games have been against ranked teams. On the 5th, they destroyed MSU 84-63. A week ago yesterday, they squeaked by OSU 66-64. That was a big second half comeback. They scored the last 10 points in that game. On Saturday, they went to Wisconsin to knock off the Badgers 73-65. And yesterday they knocked off Illinois 70-59. Make no mistake about it, Rutgers is in the big dance. Okay, if they don't get in, something has gone horribly wrong. What's one of the things that we look at for bubble teams? Quality wins. Who did you beat? No bubble team is going to have a better record in that sense than Rutgers. To knock off 4 straight ranked teams in 4 consecutive games is absolutely insane. It's one thing if you're a ranked team yourself. Okay, I don't want to say that should be expected, because any team can be better than any other team on any given day of the week, but it's not as noteworthy as an unranked team doing this. A team that was 12-9 before this win streak. I mean, they had lost to Northwestern, they had lost to Maryland, they had lost to Minnesota, they had lost to Penn State. Early in the season, they lost 3 straight games to DePaul, Lafayette, and Massachusetts. You didn't think there was a snowball's chance in hell that Rutgers would get in the big dance. But now that they've won 4 straight against really, really, really good teams, I don't want to say I'd bet the rent on it, because bracketology is way, way, way above my pay grade. I tried to do it once. It was just too confusing for me. But I'd be very surprised if Rutgers didn't make it. And in case you're wondering, their next game is on Sunday. They will travel to West Lafayette, Indiana to face the Purdue Boilermakers. You cannot tell me that Rutgers doesn't have a chance in that game. I don't know if I'd go as far as to pick the Scarlet Knights, but make no mistake about it, you have to put Purdue on upset alert. If the NBA All-Star Game does nothing for you, it doesn't do anything for me, so no judgment. If the All-Star Game does nothing for you, go ahead and watch Rutgers Purdue. I won't begrudge you for that for a second. In fact, watch Washington State USC after that. Go for it. I like the slam dunk contest. That's about it. Tough loss for Illinois. This is a game that if you're an Illini fan, you had to feel confident before it started that your team would go into Piscataway and win. I mean, Kofi Cockburn had a double-double. 20 points and 10 rebounds. Usually, if he does that, you're going to win. But Alfonso Plummer was non-existent, as was Jacob Grandison, as was Andre Curbelo. Rutgers starters were really good. They all had a good game, with the exception of Geo Baker. He's got to do better than only 7 points. But Ron Harper was really good. He had 16 points. Clifford Omarie, I'm sure I butchered that name, I'm sorry, had a double-double, 15 points and 13 rebounds. Paul Mulcahy had 13 points. Caleb McConnell had 11 points. Great win for Rutgers. I'm not going to say this punches their ticket to the big dance, but you've got to be confident if you're a Scarlet Knights fan that the committee will put you in. Even if you're an impartial observer like I am, you've got to feel confident in their chances. Steve Pickiel has done an incredible job with Rutgers. Did a great job at Stony Brook. Took him a while to get going there, but he turned that program around. Pickiel came in after Eddie Jordan crashed and burned. The last time that Rutgers was in the big dance, excluding the Pickiel years, was 1991. You know who the coach was for Rutgers that year? Bob Wenzel. 99% of Rutgers students wouldn't know Bob Wenzel if he came to their house or their dorm, as the case may be, and delivered them a pizza. Last year, Rutgers was in the big dance. They knocked off Clemson in the first round before narrowly losing to a superior Houston team. And the year before that, the year that the tournament got canceled because of COVID, Rutgers was 20-11. They would have been in. Give Pickiel a ton of credit. If I'm the AD of a big school and I'm looking for a new head basketball coach, I'm looking at Pickiel. No question about that. And if it's Pickel, I'm sorry. I've only seen it written. Everyone should be named John Smith. I've said this a million times. I'll close this show out with some NFL Valk talk. Specifically on the Panthers re-signing Frankie Louvu to a 2-year deal worth $9 million. That is right, Sam Darnold and Robbie Anderson are not the only former Jets that the Panthers have. They also have Frankie Louvu. I remember Louvu with the Jets vividly. I mean, there were years toward the end of the season where I thought this guy would turn into a really good player. Like, maybe not a Pro Bowler, but a player who could go out there every week and play good football, fill his role, just be a solid player. But Joe Douglas chose not to re-sign him last offseason. Louvu then went to the Panthers and had a really, really good year. Didn't play a ton of snaps, only 249, but he stayed relatively healthy, only missed one game, and actually had the highest Pro Football Focus grade out of any Panthers defender. His grade was 84.8. In second place was Stephon Gilmore with a grade of 77.1. And on special teams, he's always been good. Last year, he had a 66.2 overall grade, according to Pro Football Focus. Look, the Panthers had an incredibly disappointing year last year. Joe Brady went from getting head coaching interviews to getting his walking papers in the span of less than a year. There are real questions in North Carolina if Matt Rule is the right guy for the job. Did David Tepper make a mistake in giving Rule that enormous contract to leave Baylor? Sam Darnold predictably failed with the Panthers. Maybe not predictable to some people, but predictable to me. I never thought he'd do good things with the Panthers. I think he is a terrible quarterback. And it makes me feel happy that he's failing there because it vindicates my team. Entering last year, I can't tell you how many people I heard from that were Jets fans that said, I'm rooting hard for Darnold. I want him to do well. It made no sense to me. Firstly, the Jets had the Panthers' second rounder, so the worse the Panthers do, the higher that pick is. Secondly, if Darnold succeeds, it's a huge slap in the face to your team. Say what you want about Adam Gase, but how bad does it look if Darnold goes to the Panthers and looks like the second coming of Jake Delhomme? That's just a terrible look for your team. All the crap you would have gotten would have driven you nuts. Yeah, the Panthers have an issue at quarterback, and I'm happy about that. Nothing against the Panthers. I'm just glad that Darnold's not working out. It validates everything I said. It makes my team look smart for moving on from him. It's going to be interesting to see how the Panthers approach this offseason. But it's off to a good start by re-signing Louvu. They really had to bring him back. And the fact that he got $4.5 million per year means that they want him to have a more expanded role. And I think he'll do well in that role. I like Louvu, always liked him. Good move by the Panthers. Until tomorrow, I'm Jacob Valk, and always remember, if you disagree with me, you're wrong.